in the sprawling metropolis of Shanghai, where glass towers pierced the sky like digital dreams made manifest, a revolution was quietly brewing. The year was 2017, and while the world was still trying to understand what Bitcoin even was, a Canadian software engineer named Changpeng Zhao was about to reshape the entire cryptocurrency landscape forever. But this isn't just another rags-to-riches Silicon Valley fairy tale. This is the story of unprecedented ambition, regulatory warfare, and the thin line between innovation and controversy. This is the rise and fall of the crypto king himself. Picture this. A man who went from flipping burgers at McDonald's to building what would become the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange in just 180 days. A platform that would process trillions of dollars in trades, serve over 100 million users worldwide, and fundamentally change how we think about money itself. Yet beneath this empire's gleaming surface lay questions that would eventually bring down its architect. Who is Changpeng Zhao? And how did a quiet programmer become one of the most powerful yet polarizing figures in modern finance? The answers reveal a story that's equal parts inspiring and cautionary, a tale of what happens when unstoppable innovation meets immovable regulatory forces. Let's start at the beginning. Long before he became known simply as CZ to millions of crypto enthusiasts, Changpeng Zhao was just another immigrant kid trying to make sense of a new country born in China. His family moved to Canada when he was just 12 years old. Like so many immigrant families, they started from scratch, working multiple jobs just to get by. The image is almost cinematic in its irony. The future billionaire, barely a teenager, working the overnight shift at McDonald's, dreaming of something bigger while the smell of French fries clung to his clothes. But even then, there were signs of what was to come. Zhao wasn't content with simply following the traditional path. He had an insatiable curiosity about technology and an almost obsessive work ethic that would later define his entire career. After studying computer science at McGill University, Zhao dove headfirst into the world of software development. But unlike his peers who chased stable corporate jobs, he was drawn to the financial sector, specifically the intersection of technology and trading. He spent years working for traditional financial institutions, building high-frequency trading systems that could execute thousands of trades per second. It was during this period that Zhao first encountered Bitcoin. The year was 2013, and while most people still dismissed cryptocurrency as internet funny money, Zhao saw something revolutionary. He didn't just see digital currency, he saw the future of finance itself. In what many would consider an insane move, he sold his apartment and invested everything into Bitcoin. This wasn't just a financial bet, it was a complete life pivot. Zhao had discovered his calling, and he threw himself into the crypto world with the intensity of a religious convert. He joined various blockchain projects, each time learning more about the technology and the community that was forming around it. But there was a problem. The existing cryptocurrency exchanges were frankly terrible. They were slow, unreliable, and had user interfaces that looked like they were designed in the 1990s. Every time Bitcoin's price moved dramatically, the exchanges would crash under the pressure, leaving millions of users unable to trade at the exact moments they needed to. Most Zhao saw this as more than just a technical problem. He saw it as an opportunity. What if someone could build an exchange that actually worked? What if cryptocurrency trading could be as smooth and reliable as traditional stock trading? What if the barriers that kept regular people away from crypto could be completely eliminated? The idea that would become Binance was born from this frustration. But turning that idea into reality would require more than just technical skills. It would require timing, funding, and perhaps most importantly, an almost reckless willingness to move faster than anyone thought possible. In early 2017, the cryptocurrency market was exploding. Bitcoin was making headlines daily as its price soared to unimaginable heights. New digital currencies were being created every week, and everyone wanted a piece of the action. It was the perfect storm for launching a new exchange, but it was also incredibly risky. The regulatory landscape was completely unclear, competition was fierce, and one technical mistake could destroy everything. Zhao didn't hesitate. Along with his co-founder Yi He, He launched Binance with a simple mission: create the world's best cryptocurrency exchange. The name itself was a combination of binary and finance, a perfect encapsulation of their vision to bridge the gap between traditional finance and the digital future. What happened next defied every expectation. Within just 6 months of launching, Binance had become the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world. By trading volume, users flocked to the platform not just because it worked reliably, but because it offered features that no one else did. Lower fees, faster transactions, and support for hundreds of different cryptocurrencies. But Binance's success wasn't just about technology. Zhao understood something that many of his competitors missed. Cryptocurrency wasn't just about the United States or Europe. This was a global phenomenon, and the biggest opportunities lay in emerging markets where traditional banking systems were inadequate or corrupt. While other exchanges focused on regulatory compliance in established markets, Binance went everywhere else. They launched in countries across Asia, Africa, and South America, often becoming the first legitimate cryptocurrency exchange available to millions of people. It was a brilliant strategy that allowed them to grow at unprecedented speed while avoiding the regulatory scrutiny that was beginning to intensify in Western countries. The numbers were staggering. By 2018, Binance was processing trades worth billions of dollars every single day. Zhao himself was estimated to be worth over $15 billion, making him one of the richest people in the cryptocurrency space. The company he had built in less than 2 years was more valuable than many traditional banks that had been operating for decades. But success at this scale comes with consequences. As Binance grew larger and more influential, it began attracting attention from regulators around the world. The very strategy that had fueled their explosive growth, operating in regulatory gray areas while serving users globally, was about to become their biggest liability. The questions were mounting. Where exactly was Binance headquartered? Which regulations did they follow? How were they protecting user funds? And perhaps most importantly, were they doing enough to prevent money laundering and other criminal activities on their platform? These weren't just technical questions. They struck at the heart of what Binance represented. Was this company a legitimate financial institution that happened to use new technology? Or was it something else entirely? The answers would determine not just Binance's future, but the future of the entire cryptocurrency industry. As regulatory pressure intensified and investigations began, Changpeng Zhao found himself at the center of a storm that would test everything he had built. The empire he had created at record speed was about to face its greatest challenge yet. The regulatory storm clouds that had been gathering on the horizon were about to unleash their full fury. And at the center of it all stood a man who had built an empire by moving fast and breaking things, suddenly discovering that some things, when broken, carry consequences that money can't fix. By 2019, Binance wasn't just a cryptocurrency exchange anymore. It had evolved into something unprecedented. A financial ecosystem that operated beyond the reach of any single government. Users could trade hundreds of digital assets, borrow money, earn interest, and even launch their own cryptocurrencies, all within Binance's interconnected web of services. But this growth came with a price that Zhao was only beginning to understand. The platform's global reach meant it was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, regulated by everyone and no one. It was a paradox that worked brilliantly in the early days of crypto, when regulators were still trying to figure out what Bitcoin even was. But those days were rapidly coming to an end. The first major warning shot came from Japan. In March 2018, the Financial Services Agency issued a warning to Binance for operating without proper registration. It was a relatively gentle rebuke, but the message was clear. The era of regulatory tolerance was over. Zhao's response was characteristically bold. Instead of fighting the Japanese regulators or trying to negotiate, he simply announced that Binance would block Japanese users from accessing the platform. This would become Zhao's standard playbook. When faced with regulatory pressure, don't engage in lengthy legal battles, just pivot, adapt, and find new markets to conquer. It was a strategy born from Silicon Valley's move fast and break things mentality, but applied to an industry where breaking things could mean breaking laws. The pattern repeated across the globe. When Thailand demanded compliance with local regulations, Binance blocked Thai users. When the United Kingdom's Financial Conduct Authority raised concerns about consumer protection, Binance announced it would stop offering regulated services to UK customers. Each retreat was tactical, designed to keep the core business growing while avoiding direct confrontation with authorities. But beneath this game of regulatory whack-a-mole, a more fundamental problem was emerging. Binance's very structure defied traditional regulatory frameworks. The company claimed to be based in Malta, but Malta said it wasn't regulated there. It had offices in dozens of countries but wasn't clearly headquartered in any of them. It served users globally but followed no single set of rules consistently. This wasn't necessarily illegal, but it was certainly unprecedented. Traditional financial institutions are anchored to specific jurisdictions, subject to clear oversight, and bound by established rules. Binance existed in the spaces between these rules, in the gray areas that regulators hadn't yet figured out how to address for Zhao. This ambiguity was a feature, not a bug. He genuinely believed that cryptocurrency represented a new form of money that couldn't be constrained by old-world borders and regulations. In his vision, Binance was pioneering a new model of global finance, one that could serve the 2 billion people worldwide who lacked access to traditional banking services. The philosophy was compelling, but it was also dangerous, because while Zhao was building bridges to financial inclusion, he was also perhaps inadvertently building highways for financial crime. The allegations began surfacing in investigative reports and regulatory filings. According to various sources, Binance had allegedly processed transactions linked to ransomware attacks, terrorist financing, and sanctions evasion. The platform's compliance systems, critics argued, were insufficient for an exchange handling hundreds of billions in annual trading volume. Zhao consistently denied these allegations, pointing to Binance's investments in compliance technology and partnerships with blockchain analysis firms. But the perception was becoming reality in the eyes of regulators. Binance was too big, too global, and too unaccountable. The pressure was taking its toll on Zhao personally. The man who had once seemed to effortlessly juggle time zones, languages, and regulatory frameworks was now facing a level of scrutiny he had never experienced. In interviews, he appeared increasingly defensive, his usual confidence replaced by careful, lawyer-approved statements. The irony was palpable. Zhao had built Binance to democratize access to cryptocurrency, to give ordinary people the same financial tools that had previously been available only to institutional investors. But his success had made him one of the most powerful people in global finance, with the ability to move markets with a single tweet. The revolutionary had become the establishment. This transformation became crystal clear during the 2022 collapse of FTX, Binance's main competitor. When Sam Bankman-Fried's exchange imploded amid allegations of fraud and mismanagement, Zhao found himself in an impossible position. Binance briefly considered acquiring FTX to prevent a broader crisis in the crypto industry, but ultimately walked away when the extent of FTX's problems became clear. The FTX collapse sent shockwaves through the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem. Billions of dollars in investor funds had vanished, and public trust in crypto exchanges reached new lows. Suddenly, every major exchange was under intense scrutiny, and Binance, as the largest, faced the most pressure of all. Regulators worldwide demanded proof that Binance wasn't another FTX waiting to happen. They wanted to see detailed financial records, compliance procedures, and evidence that customer funds were properly segregated and secured. For a company that had thrived on opacity and flexibility, these demands represented an existential challenge. Zhao's response was swift and comprehensive. Binance published detailed proof of reserves reports showing that the exchange held sufficient assets to cover all customer deposits. The company hired former government officials to lead compliance efforts and began the painful process of obtaining proper licenses in major jurisdictions. But it was too little, too late. The regulatory net was closing, and this time there would be no tactical retreats to friendlier jurisdictions. The United States Department of Justice had been building a case against Binance and Zhao personally, focusing on violations of anti-money laundering regulations and the Bank Secrecy Act. The charges, when they finally came, were devastating in their scope and specificity. According to the indictment, Binance had willfully failed to establish adequate anti-money laundering procedures, had served U.S. customers while claiming not to, and had helped users circumvent compliance requirements. Zhao himself was charged with failing to maintain an effective anti-money laundering program. For a man who had built his reputation on being ahead of every curve, Zhao found himself completely outmaneuvered. The global regulatory system he had spent years navigating had finally cornered him. There would be no more pivots, no more strategic retreats. This was endgame. The plea negotiations were conducted in secret, but the outcome spoke volumes about the government's confidence in its case. In November 2023, Changpeng Zhao agreed to plead guilty to violating the Bank Secrecy Act. As part of the agreement, he would step down as CEO of Binance, pay a personal fine of $50 million, and serve time in federal prison. The moment the news broke, it sent shockwaves through the cryptocurrency world. CZ, the seemingly untouchable king of crypto, was facing jail time. Binance, the exchange that had survived every previous crisis, would have to continue without its founder. But perhaps the most stunning revelation was the scale of the financial penalties. Binance agreed to pay over $4 billion in fines and forfeiture, one of the largest corporate settlements in U.S. history. The number was so large it was difficult to comprehend, representing years of profits from the very activities that had made the exchange so successful. As Zhao prepared to face sentencing, the crypto industry he had helped create was forced to confront some uncomfortable truths. The Wild West era of cryptocurrency was ending, replaced by a new reality where even the most powerful players would be held accountable to traditional legal standards. The man who had democratized access to digital assets was about to lose his own freedom. The empire built on the promise of decentralized finance was being brought to heel by the very centralized authorities it had sought to circumvent. The revolution, it seemed, had come full circle. The courtroom in Seattle was unusually quiet on that April morning in 2024. Federal Judge Richard Jones sat behind his bench preparing to deliver a sentence that would reverberate through every trading floor, every crypto conference, and every digital wallet around the world. In the defendant's chair sat Changpeng Zhao, the man who had once commanded an empire worth more than many small nations. The journey to this moment had been swift and brutal. Just months earlier, Zhao had been fielding questions from reporters about Binance's latest innovations, discussing the future of decentralized finance with the confidence of someone who had never lost a major battle. Now dressed in a simple dark suit, he awaited judgment for crimes that struck at the very foundation of his life's work. The prosecutors had painted a damning picture during the proceedings. They described a company that had grown so fast, moved so aggressively that it had left compliance and legal oversight in the dust. According to the government's case, Binance had processed over $100 billion in transactions while failing to report suspicious activities as required by law. The numbers were staggering. Allegedly, the platform had facilitated trades linked to illegal activities on a scale that dwarfed traditional financial crimes. But perhaps more damaging than any specific allegation was the portrait of institutional arrogance that emerged from the investigation. Internal communications released during the case showed Binance employees joking about regulatory compliance, discussing ways to help users evade geographic restrictions, and treating anti-money laundering requirements as obstacles to be circumvented rather than laws to be followed. One message, sent by a Binance executive, would be quoted repeatedly in news coverage. "We are operating as a F-King unlicensed securities exchange in the USA, bro." The casual tone, the brazen acknowledgement of regulatory violations, the sense that rules simply didn't apply to them. It all painted a picture of a company that had lost sight of the line between innovation and lawlessness. Zhao himself had tried to distance his personal actions from these corporate communications. His lawyers argued that he had been focused on the big picture, on building technology that could serve millions of underbanked people around the world. They portrayed him as a visionary who had been let down by subordinates, a leader who had trusted others to handle compliance while he focused on innovation. But the government's case was built on a simpler premise. The buck stops at the top. As CEO and controlling shareholder of Binance, Zhao was ultimately responsible for the company's failures. He had benefited enormously from Binance's aggressive growth strategy, and he would have to pay the price for its consequences. When Judge Jones finally spoke, his words carried the weight of legal precedent and moral judgment. "You put your company's growth and profits over compliance with US law," he said, looking directly at Zhao. "Your actions contributed to Binance becoming a platform where money could be laundered and moved around the world without proper oversight." The sentence was 4 months in federal prison, followed by probation, and a lifetime ban from serving as an executive at any company that provides cryptocurrency exchange services. It was less than the 3 years prosecutors had requested, but more than the probation Zhao's legal team had hoped for. Most importantly, it was unprecedented. Never before had the founder of a major cryptocurrency exchange faced prison time in the United States. The crypto community's reaction was immediate and polarized. Supporters argued that Zhao was being scapegoated for an industry-wide problem, that he was paying the price for regulatory uncertainty that had made compliance nearly impossible in the early days of cryptocurrency. Critics countered that his prosecution was long overdue, that the crypto industry had been allowed to operate with impunity for too long, while traditional financial institutions faced strict oversight. But beyond the partisan reactions lay a more fundamental question. What did this mean for the future of cryptocurrency itself? Zhao hadn't just built a company. He had helped define an entire industry's approach to regulation, compliance, and global operations. His downfall represented more than just one man's legal troubles. It marked the end of an era. The ripple effects were already visible across the crypto landscape. Other major exchanges began aggressively pursuing regulatory licenses, hiring compliance officers from traditional financial institutions, and implementing the kind of know-your-customer procedures they had previously resisted. The message was clear. The days of moving fast and breaking things were over. For Zhao personally, the transformation was even more dramatic. The man who had once commanded a global audience of millions through his Twitter account fell silent. The CEO, who had been available for interviews at any hour of the day, disappeared from public view. The entrepreneur who had built his reputation on being accessible and transparent was now constrained by legal agreements that limited what he could say and do. When he finally emerged from prison in late 2024, Zhao was a changed man. Gone was the confident swagger that had characterized his public appearances. In its place was a more reflective, subdued demeanor. He spoke carefully about his experiences, acknowledging mistakes while maintaining that his original vision for Binance had been fundamentally sound. The crypto industry he returned to was unrecognizable from the one he had left. Regulation had arrived with a vengeance, bringing clarity but also constraints that made the explosive growth of the 2017 era impossible to replicate. New exchanges operated with the caution of traditional banks, hiring armies of compliance officers and submitting to regular audits. Some saw this as progress, the maturation of an industry that had grown too fast for its own good. Others mourned the loss of the rebellious spirit that had made cryptocurrency revolutionary in the first place. The technology remained the same, but the culture had fundamentally shifted. Zhao himself seemed to view the changes with mixed emotions. In rare public appearances, he spoke about lessons learned and the importance of building sustainable businesses. But there was also a sense of loss, a recognition that something vital had been sacrificed in the pursuit of regulatory acceptance. The man who had once dreamed of creating a parallel financial system had learned that no system, no matter how innovative or decentralized, could exist entirely outside the reach of traditional power structures. The blockchain might be immutable, but the humans who built companies around it remained subject to very mutable laws and regulations. Perhaps the most profound irony was that Zhao's downfall had, in many ways, validated his original vision. The massive scale of Binance, the billions of dollars it had processed, the millions of users it had served, all of this demonstrated that there was indeed a global appetite for cryptocurrency services. The problem hadn't been the vision itself, but the execution, the belief that innovation alone could transcend legal and regulatory boundaries. As the crypto industry continued to evolve in Zhao's absence, his legacy remained complicated and contested. To some, he would always be a pioneer who had democratized access to digital assets and built bridges between traditional finance and the blockchain future. To others, he was a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of regulatory oversight. The truth, as it often does, lay somewhere in between. Changpeng Zhao had been both visionary and reckless, both innovator and rule-breaker. He had built something unprecedented and paid an unprecedented price for the methods he had used to build it. The empire he had created continued to operate without him, but it was no longer the same company. Binance under new leadership was more compliant, more careful, more conventional. It remained profitable and influential, but the revolutionary spirit that had once defined it had been replaced by something more measured and institutional. In the end, the rise and fall of Changpeng Zhao offered a masterclass in both the possibilities and perils of technological disruption. Innovation without accountability could achieve remarkable things, but it could also exact a remarkable cost. The future belonged to those who could learn from both his successes and his failures, who could push boundaries without breaking them, who could build the next generation of financial infrastructure on a foundation more solid than ambition alone. The crypto king was gone, but the kingdom he had helped create lived on, forever changed by both his vision and his downfall. Today, as cryptocurrency moves toward mainstream acceptance, the ghost of CZ's empire haunts every boardroom decision and regulatory filing. The industry he helped create now operates under the watchful eye of authorities worldwide, forever changed by the spectacular rise and calculated fall of its most ambitious architect. In the end, Changpeng Zhao's story serves as both inspiration and warning. That innovation without boundaries can reshape the world, but power without accountability inevitably reshapes the innovator. The question that remains is whether the next generation of crypto pioneers will learn from his legacy or repeat his mistakes.